This is a video for grade 10 academic, and I'm Miss Thungaraj, and I'm going to help you find the equation that represents the graph. So this is the question. It's number 13 from the textbook, and they give you 4 options, and they want to know which of those equations represents the graph on the left. So we need to remember a bit about vertex form. So we're going to look at an example of vertex form first before we solve this question. So, for example, if I have y is equal to x minus 3 squared minus 7, don't forget that that means that the vertex happens at not minus 3, but plus 3, comma, minus 7. When you have vertex form, the x for the vertex form is the opposite of the x in the bracket, and then the y is the number at the end. So I've entered that into decimals. And you can see I've typed y is equal to x minus 3 squared minus 7. And we're going to look at the graph, and we're going to see that it gives us a quadratic. And the vertex of that quadratic is 3, comma, minus 7. And the reason the vertex is 3, comma, minus 7 is because because in the bracket, it says minus 3. So that's why it's plus 3 for the vertex. And at the end, it says minus 7. And that's why the vertex is happening at minus 7. So now let's look at question number 13 from the textbook. And we can see that if we look at 13 in the textbook, the vertex is actually at 3, comma 5. So now we need to go backwards. So instead of plus 3, we know it needs to be minus 3. And then the plus 5 needs to stay the same. So all we need to do now is figure out what is the number or the a in front of that equation so we can find the entirety of the equation. So I know that since the vertex is 3, comma, 5, the equation is going to be x minus 3 plus 5. The opposite of 3 is minus 3, and the 5 stays the same. I also know that since this quadratic is opening down, the number at the front of that bracket needs to be negative. So now we're going to do a bit of algebra to figure out what that negative number is going to be. Let's notice one more thing about this curve. It looks like it goes through the point 0, negative 1. So we can add that to the equation. We know the equation is already this. We just need to find the a. So if I put the 0 where the x is and the negative 1 where the y is, and I simplify and then solve for a, I'll be done the question. So I plug the 0 in. It gives me negative 3 squared plus 5. And then I solve the negative 3 times negative 3 gives me 9. And I isolate for a. And then a will be negative 6 divided by 9. But that's the same thing as negative 2 divided by 3, which means that we know the a for the equation, and we also know the. So now we know that the answer must be C. The vertex is 3, comma 5, so it has to be x minus 3 squared plus 5. And we know it goes upside down, so it needs to be negative. And the a, we've just calculated that, has to be 6 over 9 or 2 over 3. So the answer for number 13 will be C.